Hello, welcome to another episode of Generally Speaking. I'm your host, Bill Lawrence. Today is Friday, October 24th, 2025. Hit the like, subscribe, and notify button, blah, blah, blah. Listen, by the way, if you find something going too slow or taking too long, just hit the speed up button and skip past it. I go over a lot of different topics here, and they're all interesting. They're all very interesting. Maybe the first one you didn't like. Go listen to the second one. Listen to them all. Actually, I would really like that. So let's get started. Trump had a nominee. He's got a nominee, Paul Ingracia. What's he nominated for? I don't know, and it's really not the point here. What matters his qualifications, and what might those be? Well, he admits to being a Nazi appreciator. I really appreciate that guy. But what's the position? That doesn't matter as long as you're going to say Trump whatever you want. You got it. And if you're a Nazi appreciator, that's icing on the cake. So that's the kind of people that are going in the administration. Here's another story. The Arizona Attorney General is suing Mike Johnson to seat, in other words, put her in position officially in the House. Um, lady named Adelita Grijalva. She is taking the seat vacated by her father, who passed away. Sorry to hear. And so uh, she, being a Democrat, would be the 218th vote, the last vote necessary in order to release the Epstein files. There's a thing going on. I keep forgetting what it's called. Petition to give us the Epstein files or something. And she would be the one that would be finally make it. They got enough votes for it. So Mike Johnson's doing everything in his power to stop that. The first thing he did was say, we need to go on a recess here. I think it's time for a recess. Let's go on a week recess. So that went by. Let's go on another week recess. I didn't get enough recessing in. So we got to do another one. Every time he's questioned by the news people, are you sure this isn't, just to prevent the Epstein files from being, uh, you know, uh, given out, made public? He goes, no, no, no. What, Epstein files? What are those? Hey, who ever heard of them? Epstein files? No, last thing I was ever thinking of. So this is a battle of the Antifa, the people who want to see things done right, and the Nazis in the Republican Party that do not. They want to protect the pedophiles. All right. So, what else? I was watching my TikToks, my videos. This is a generally speaking. I speak about anything that comes to my head. And I was listening to a song called Cherry Cherry Lady. It was so bouncy. It was so boppy. I was listening to this thing for like 20 minutes. I just couldn't stop. I had to finally say, listen, I got to do stuff. I have to put this down. But I definitely put this on my playlist. What do we got next? Japanese. You've heard of pet rocks. I wish I would have thought of that. Everybody thinks about these things, that crazy things. Why didn't I think about that? Well, these people did pet rocks one step better. Here's the Japanese for you. What did they do? They're selling canned air. Air. Open up the can. What's in there? Nothing. No, no, there's air in there. What air? There's airs all around. Not this air. This air comes from the top of Mount Yamamoto. It is so crystalline, pure that, just inhaling this stuff is going to clear out every ailment you've ever had in your life and give you another 5 minutes worth of life if you do this, because the air up there is so pure that they say the people living up there live 50 years long. They live typically 150 years breathing that air. Now, actually, nobody lives up there. It's just the top of a mountain, but they're selling it. People are buying it. Why didn't I think of that? What else do these Japanese crazy people do? You got the stop lights at the corners, go, stop, right? They've inserted lights, traffic lights on the ground, on the curbs. Why? What's that going to do? It's not for the cars. Cars can't see it. It's for the people. Why for the people? Well, everybody with their cell phones, right? They're always looking down. They're at their cell phones. Now, when you're standing at the curb, you're looking down. You can see the green lights and the red lights. You can see when it's time to go. Well, yeah, and keep looking at your phone. Just walk across. You never have to look up. These guys, they're crazy. All right, what do we got? Peter Thiel. This is a fellow who's got a lot of influence on the GOP, the political machines on the right, and he thinks that AI. I mean, this guy, he's going a little wacko. He's gone into into the Christian world, the spirit world, the faith world, and he's going deep. And he's saying AI is going to bring the Antichrist. Okay, this is why, I've got a lot of Christian friends. I live in Christian world. It's all around me. And these people aren't crazy if you talk to them. Although when you try to push them on certain points, like, God is the one who supports the devil, which is where hell comes from, and God really is the one responsible for hell. And they don't want to deal with this. Look, if I'm in hell, it's because I decided to go there. It's not because God said, well, if you don't believe in me, that's a good enough reason to be punished forever. And they don't buy that argument. But aside from that, you talk to them on a one-to-one basis. They're all nice. They're having get-togethers all the time with food, and they do things for the people. They go out on missions and tell people how to go to hell if you're bad, and stuff like that. So this is Peter Thiel going a little nuts. All right, in the UK, somebody burned the Quran. He was upset with somebody, I don't know whatever, and wanted to make a point in front of the Turkish embassy, which Turkey is largely Muslim. So he figured, well, this ought to upset somebody, and it did. And he got arrested. People called in, and someone actually attacked him with a knife, and for doing that. This is the kind of people they are. Now, I don't know, why should I say these are the kind of people they are? There's some person in the world from every walk of something of life, that will whip out the knife because they're not mentally stable. There are a lot of not mentally stable people. Maybe not all knife throwers, but like one level below that. And at any rate, so the knife wielding person, and not just him, another person came and tried to steal the book that the guy was trying to burn, steal his property, try to mug him. Anything happened to those people? No. What happens to the who gets what? He gets arrested and charged with being a troublemaker. What are you trying to do here? So he appealed it, and the appeals court said no, it's okay to burn the book. I wonder if they would have said that if he was burning a Bible, or if he was burning the Torah, the Jewish Pentateuch, the first five books. That's what they go on, right? The Old Testament. Would they have done that? Especially with all this crazy anything that seems anything anti-Semite. You burned the Torah, you're an anti-Semite, and you hate Israel. you know um I wonder if they would have let that one go. So what do we got? Ron DeSantis, he passed a bill not too long ago in Florida saying that schools can now have, in place of certified, trained social workers and counselors, they can now have instead chaplains. Chaplains. Now, why would you want that? I guess chaplains, they're working for the Lord. Don't have to pay me. I'll just come in. You can give me a little pittance, whatever. I'm here to spread the word, in the young schools. Yes, that's right. Did I say that? No, I'm not here for that at all. I'm here for counseling and for, social work. Yeah, yeah. I haven't had any training in it, don't know a thing about it, but that's what I'm here for. Yeah, that's what I'm here for. So he said schools can do that, and none of them took it up because right away they could see the problems coming down the road with uh, legalized legal assaults. Freedom from religion, American ACL, people coming in. You can't do that. You can't do that. And so nobody bought into it except for one school. One school did, and they ended up going to a suit where they had like $20,000 of the school money, right? Public money got spent trying to defend, having this chaplain in there. And by the way, this chaplain, who did they pick? They picked something like under the radar, some moderate, easygoing person. Yeah, I'm a chaplain, but I'm a human person. No, they chose the most right-wing, radical, and election-denying person they could possibly have. So anyway, they were taken to court, had to spend like 20 something thousand dollars, and they lost that. And they're thinking, maybe we should appeal this, which is going to be another $20,000. And every time you try pushing it up higher and higher, it's another 20,000. And they're all for that. Yeah, let's push this. Let's push this like that. It's so dang necessary. This kills me. I just don't understand why these religious fundamentalists, why they have to push this. And leave the schools alone. Just leave the school. How would they like it if we decided, you know what, you've got to put Darwin's theory of evolution in every church? In fact, you've got to start teaching that along when you're doing your prayers. You got to have a section on Darwin's theory of evolution. You got to do this. So what would they think of that? I think that would be a little annoying to them. They could take a little offense. But they have no trouble putting their stuff into our schools. All right, Texas, just going along those same lines, is inserting the Bible into elementary texts. These red states are going to start trying to follow suit. What do you mean about that? Well, the schools, they are big buyers of textbooks. Okay, they buy textbooks, and when the textbooks are submitted by the publishers, the schools look at them, decide if they like it or not. Say, well, can you change this? Can you change that? And so this one school district and Texas, generally speaking, was saying, modify this and modify that, and all the modifications were going to the point where we start saying how Christianity was the foundation of this country, and how slavery was a good thing, and all kinds of things, biblical speaking. In fact, actually having talking about the last dinner and stuff like this. And this is where they go with this. And since a lot of schools are kind of getting strict on their budget now, with the Department of Education being canceled, the booksellers are saying, well, nobody else is asking for any changes. I guess these are the changes we'll make, and that's what the books everybody else is going to get. So that's the kind of life we were living in here now. This NSPM 7, National Security something policy memorandum statement. Just a reminder, I said this once before. It's an official document that the government has posted that says Black Lives Matter and Antifa are terrorist groups. Are terrorist groups. So since Antifa isn't anything, a definite, it's an idea, anti-fascist, and it generally refers to, of course, liberals and people against the government overreach, breaking the Constitution and such. They're calling them terrorist groups. And now anyone who's a liberal, who's a Democrat, essentially is can now be called a terrorist group. Black Lives Matter. If you say anything now that a black person has been hanged, and then you complain about it, well, now you're a terrorist. Nice. All right, Trump, he bails out Argentina. 20 billion was the first number that was going around. And then I heard, they doubled it to 40 billion, whichever one. Bad enough, the farmers are suffering, especially the focus on soybeans, even though there are other, crops that are also in trouble. But the soybean crop that China decided not to buy from us anymore. Now the farmers are stuck with all these soybeans. And where did China go? They went to Argentina to get their soybeans now, because didn't want to deal with American tariffs. And so Argentina is now getting the benefits of the United States. Soybean people can't sell their soybeans. And so what does Trump do? He says, I think I'll give Argentina 20 more billion, because their country is on a little economic unstable grounds. But so what? A lot of people on unstable grounds. Well, the thing is, some of Trump's best friends, in fact, actually more specifically, the Secretary of Treasury, Bessent, however you say his name, his friends are these big hedge fund managers and investors. They're the ones who are in trouble, because they've got a lot of money invested in Argentina, which is $20 or 20 billion or 40 billion. That's going to, cover their bets that are like were bad bets. All right, so that's very nice of him to do that. Now, on top of that, he's going to start importing beef from Argentina. It's just screw America left and right. Let's get our beef from Argentina. Why do anything to help American beef people? No, let's import it from Argentina. What else we got here? Governor Newsom in California, he's going to deploy the National Guard for food banks, helping distribute food to food banks. And he's also going to secure funding for food assistance and SNAP, since the Trump regime decided nobody needs to eat. Everybody's got to eat. Everybody's got food. And if you don't, just eat cake. If you can't get, steaks, beans, just eat cake. And Michigan is doing the same thing. I think her name is Gretmer or something in Michigan. They passed a budget to provide free school lunch, to give a 3.8 thousand on average refund per family, at the end of tax season, and to protect healthcare and SNAP, and 2 billion for roads. These are the kind of things that blue states, horrible blue states, do for their people and their state. Not in the red states, and not this government that we have running the country now. Trump, what is he essentially? He tried to overthrow the country. He's a traitor. He's already been accused of, as a sex offender, which he is, and he's been blowing up innocent civilians in the Caribbean, blowing up these ships, which he'll just say that they're drug trafficking, and just killing them. So he's a murderer. So he's a traitor. He's a sex offender, and he's a murderer. That's what we got for our president, and we still have people that support him. Go Trump. Some people will just, run off the cliff like lemmings, right? California Chino Valley Unified School District is trying to Christianize the schools. I wish I would have written a little bit more about that story. I didn't, so it was almost a waste of me even saying that. But it's going on somewhere. David Schuster on Rebel HQ. Finally, I'm referencing some of the sources that I get this from. David Schuster. He was saying something, about Trump, but he came up with a funny line, talking about how Mike Johnson is denying that the holding up of the appointment of Ms. Graheva for her position has anything to do with Epstein. No, it doesn't. So this fellow is saying that Trump is a clown and Mike Johnson is his ventriloquist dummy, and that is so true. This one is from Lena Petrova, and her site is called World Affairs in Context. She's talking about the Netherlands under pressure from the United States nationalized. Remember, nationalized. We used to get upset about when countries in Latin America decided to nationalize our oil companies or whatever companies, and wow, how could they do that? Now the U.S. is telling the Netherlands to nationalize a Chinese company called Nexperia, and this deals with some automotive parts. So China decided to restrict some exports that would service Nexperia, and in that process, Nexperia also gives its produce to automotive makers, and it's going to end up screwing Volkswagen. So Volkswagen is the one that's ultimately going to pay for the Netherlands nationalizing a Chinese company because the United States said so. Europe is just a slave to America. We say U.S. is a slave to Israel, does whatever Netanyahu wants, and Europe is a slave to whatever the U.S. wants. So, anyway, we got getting near the end here. A fellow named Sam O'Hara. What did he do? He was marching with a loudspeaker, a radio, playing a song behind some National Guardsmen as they were walking. He was behind them playing this song. It was the Star Wars Imperial March. Dun, 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 dun. So he was playing that, and they arrested him. What is it? What's the charge? Playing music. He was playing music. He was upsetting us. He was offending our sensibilities, playing the Death March. So he went to that. That's what kind of administration we have now. The Imperial March thing behind the Ohio National Guards. All right. Hey, that was pretty quick. I hope you listened to it. I hope you liked some of those stories. And I hope to see you again. Look for Generally Speaking. I come out like every couple of days. I don't find reporting day after day is anything really very new. Round it up a couple of days and give you all the good stuff. So, hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you again. Remember, like, subscribe, and hit the notify bell. And you all take care.